the city. So, there's deep traditional historic roots, and this organization has been part of this community now for 70-some years. Moving forward into the 90s and moving forward into 2016, we've seen different shifts, transformations on how business is done, our business community, and how what that affects our organization. So we're forced over the last year through a transition period. An organization, the Cathedral City Chamber of Commerce, has been run by committee. The executive committee and by extension the board of directors. We have a contract employee that is basically our office manager and manages kind of the day-to-day affairs. In looking for a model going forward, timing is everything. We were approached and were provided information from the Greater Coachella Valley Chamber of Commerce. We formed an exploratory committee of the board and took a look at that and did a pretty deep dive in trying to understand what our present situation as the Cathedral City Chamber of Commerce was, what that meant immediately and into the future, and then what possible benefits, value of the larger Greater Coachella Valley Chamber of Commerce is as they went through their formation process now and are fully operational. So what we hope to do today is bring forward information based on a recommendation of the board of directors to explain, as I said, where the Cathedral City Chamber of Commerce is, our situation, what we understand and think is a good path forward vis-a-vis the Greater Coachella Valley Chamber of Commerce, provide that information, answer questions, and begin a process with our business members towards determining if that is something that, in terms of the merger joining the large organization, is something that our members want to do. So with that, I'd like to introduce Carrie LeBert, our Vice Chairman.
All right. Everybody hear me okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, good. That's good. Sound has always been an issue for us. So thank you all for being here. It's wonderful to see so many friends and people who are taking interest in our chamber and in its future. So as Todd gave you a little bit of our history, I'm going to do a little bit further back in time about chamber history. Let me go over here. So first, did you know that the first Chamber of Commerce was formed in 1599? It's old. So what does that mean for us? Well, basically, they were all formed originally by merchants to deal with their various forms of government to promote business. Because at the end of the 16th century, trade, discovery of the New World, was becoming huge. And so merchants banded together. As we said, the first one was in France. But the key to them for 400 years has been business members together doing things for business. And so that has stayed with us all the way up to now in the 21st century. And as you know, the Chamber of Commerce of Cathedral City, our motto is in business for business. Next. So, I don't know if any of you knew this, but chambers come in a whole bunch of different forms. No, you went too far. Just use the down button. Yeah, thank you. So, as we are familiar with here in the Valley, we have local, city-focused chambers. But there are also larger chambers. Some of them are for like the metropolitan areas that are larger, single city regionals. You also have multi-city regionals where multiple cities are represented under a Chamber of Commerce. And then of course you have the large regional chambers, such as the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and in California, Cal Chamber. Now, Todd gave you a little bit of background as to the process with the board. Well, I'm going to give you a little bit more background about your chamber itself. As with small businesses and small nonprofits, we can get stuck into something I've called the cycle of smallness. And basically, when you have limited resources, you're not able to offer a lot of programs, which then limits growth for your members, which then limits your resources. So there's a cycle. And usually what takes it to get to the next level is some major event, whether it's a major contract award or a grant or an investor, coming on like a white knight. We are in that area, and we're not the only ones. But with our history of the past 10 years, where we've had 4 CEOs and 1 interim executive director, 3 locations that we've had our offices at, we are very, very dependent for our very foundation on the city's contract. And we currently have a really good relationship with the city of Cathedral City, but that's negotiated every year and could change depending on how economics continue. And of course, since the financial crash, we all suffered. The chamber suffered as well. So what we found ourselves in is a membership plateau. So what do you want to do about that? Well, a couple of plans to address the cycle of smallness. One, we could do what we've been doing, which is looking for a CEO who might have the dynamism to take us to the next level. Problem with that is even if we increase our membership 50%, the actual revenue stream that brings in is not necessarily going to be enough to increase staffing or implement greater, broader programs for the membership. What's another option? Well, join forces with other folks, pool resources, partner. You know, the old adage that the sum of the parts, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. You know what I mean? So we're looking at Plan B, and as Todd said, the exploratory committee earlier this year was formed after the board had guests from the Greater Coachella Valley Chamber of Commerce come in and present to us an information session just as to what was going on for them. So we've been working on this and looking at this as a chamber and with the board and the various impacts it could have for about 6 months. So we finally thought it's time for this presentation to be addressed to you so that we can get your feedback and input on it as well. So why would we really want to form? We've talked about it a little bit already about shared resources. But one of the prime motivators is the fact that, especially in our valley where we have 9 cities, I don't know of many organizations that can really afford 9 chamber memberships. So business people who do get clients from all over the valley have to pick and choose where they're going to put their resources for networking, for programs. So that's one of the big motivators is that for a single membership, you could get access to multiple chambers, which is pretty darn awesome. Now, geographic proximity. What's that mean? Well, we're all in one valley, for goodness sake. We might be a bunch of cities, but in reality, we have a lot of cross-pollination going on throughout the valley. One of the things that has been missing is a united chamber business voice dealing with the various electeds and government officials. We've tried to have various multi-chamber legislative committees throughout the years, and those have come and gone. And frankly, as you all know, at legislative meetings, you usually get the assistant of the assistant's assistant come and represent what's going on in government. If we're a bigger group, we could get the elected officials themselves or their chief of staff to hear our input on matters that impact the business community throughout the valley, as well as on economic development issues and other things of that nature, which I think is really an important part of what our chamber is supposed to do, advocate on behalf of business. As we see here, Christine gave me this quote. She is the executive director of the West Orange County Regional Chamber of Commerce, which has La Palma, Buena Park, and Stanton in Orange County. Her quote is, "We had several chambers that were right next to each other and some were struggling. Bottom line is we could be one strong regional chamber with resources to get things done, or we could limp along as smaller organizations." She says, "We chose the latter, and it's worked out great." So, again, our valley, for a long time, has had real distinct city identities and unique qualities to each city, and those are all valuable. Those are all cachet in various ways. The thing to remember is, past 10 years, Coachella Fest has made the name Coachella Valley a global brand. Not only that, but with our airports, I-10, and the railway, we have quite a bit of logistical potential within the valley, as well as transport for people coming in and out to do business. So in some ways, we're already thought of as more of a region within the Inland Empire, not just individual cities. And that's very important to realize, especially for all of us as business people looking for new opportunities. Comparison, Riverside County. not Riverside County, the city of Riverside, they have about 500,000 people in it. Currently, our valley, with including unincorporated areas, has about 450,000 people here. City of Riverside has one chamber with about 1,000 plus members. They're very effective with their city government and with the county supervisors. And so there's potential for all of us to be represented at that same level with all of our elected officials, just as a point of comparison. And next, our demographics. This is interesting. So there's a funky map of our valley, but more importantly is these highlighted areas. These are all the fastest growing communities in the valley. So currently, with our 443,000, that was in 2008. 2020, they're looking at maybe 600,000. And in 2035, which seems like a long way off, 884,000 people. The city of Coachella, followed by Indio, and the unincorporated are all the highest growing areas. Cathedral City and Desert Hot Springs for themselves are growing at a faster rate than comparable cities like Palm Springs, Rancho Mirage, Palm Desert. So the dynamics of the population of the valley talk only of future growth. And that's an important thing to remember. As we want to be in business for as long as we can be, we have customers coming into the valley, and that's with the latest CVEP conference, their economists confirmed that that growth is continuing. So, where did all this originally come from? Well, our friends in the East, Indio, Coachella, La Quinta, back 2015, 2016, started exploring an idea of joining forces for very similar reasons. So, they had their elections in 2016, and as you can see by the results, Indio, La Quinta, Coachella, the margins saying yes of the membership was incredibly substantial. Business people saw the value, and I can tell you, since they formed officially in July, I've been to a few of their events that were extraordinarily well attended. So it seems that the enthusiasm level of their membership clearly is a compelling part of this that seems to be working. So what does it look like, really? Here's some stats. So we know the name of it. They have about 1,300 plus active members. That's pretty amazing. They also include tribal representation. Cowzon Band of Mission Indians and 29 Palms Band of Mission Indians. They have 35 executive sponsors, what we call the Chairman's Council, who contribute about $158,000 in large membership funds. And so their operating budget is about $1.6 million. So there's some strength there that's obvious just from their combination together. That is also, I think, a compelling part to consider. So we all want to know what's in it for me, right? Come on. We all want to know what's in it for me. Most importantly, you get access to, if Cathedral City goes as part of this, to 4 chambers, essentially for the same membership you pay now. So if you have renewed this year or in 2017, and we vote to join, that continues into the new chamber, and you have access to all of their programs. Now, this is an example. I took a look at their website, and so for the last 3 months of the year, not only do they have a lot of events that we're all used to, the mixers and things like that, but they had specific business programs for the Cal CPA, on accounting and finance. They had 2 or 3 on social media management and website better management. Of course, and these were all for free, or for a minimal $5 contribution, and then maybe 2 or 3 hours of your time. I remember when we were looking at our lunch and learns, we took our membership's input on that because people were saying, we want more business-specific programs at the lunch and learns. And so we did. And so just that alone, I thought was compelling in just a 3-month period that they would have that kind of program sponsorship. Plus they have 11 major events throughout the year, mixers that are regional. They have 31 different events that are community relations type events. So that's quite amazing. So by going to all those regional things, your reach into potential clients, potential business partners has quadrupled. So I know one of the things that we were concerned with is like, well, if we're part of a big organization, what happens to our identity? And as Todd said, our chamber has been part of the city and community of Cathedral City for 70 years and essentially guided the city for half of its existence before it incorporated. So to answer that question, your local office stays here. Demand and staff here. We'll also have local mixers. We'll also have our key local events like the Orion Awards, State of the City, and others here. And that's a really important thing because our identity, our accessibility to our membership, that's critical. And I know we had trouble with that earlier this year, and frankly, we've been doing our best to make sure that people can answer the phone, have a person to talk to. And this way, not only would we have one person there, we'd more likely have 2 or 3. Again, more resources to help all of you. Now, how does this governance look? Well, there's essentially multiple boards of directors. For all the local chambers, they have an 8-person board made up of local businesses. The chair of that board is also a member of the Greater Coachella Valley Chamber Board. I don't know if you can see it very well, but not only are you represented locally, but that person is your voice at the greater board, which I think is a really critical point, and I admire that they took that into consideration because they were cognizant of the fact that local identities had to be nurtured and maintained. And this is a mechanical vehicle to ensure that that happens. There's also membership of the different tribal nations and at least three from each of the business districts representatives on the larger board. So I think that's an important thing to know that the local agencies are not forgotten. In fact, they become critical components of the overall mix because in the different functionalities of the Greater Coachella Valley Chamber of Commerce, they're stationed at the different local offices. So, for instance, we could have here in our local office not only our own local representative, but they would also work on, say, communications, social media, for instance. Also, they would be helping you with websites. So the membership value that you get is a much stronger organization, more people with multiple layers of expertise to help you out. One of the things just off the top of my head that I thought was really cool is that their production department has the ability to give you video of your business that you can put on your website or your Facebook page for free as part of your membership. I thought it was pretty darn cool. That's the master of the videos there. So we talked about the timeline. We started exploring in April. Obviously now we're here in November to have this information session. We ideally would like to complete the electoral process, get your votes on whether the Cathedral City Chamber of Commerce joins the Greater Coachella Valley Chamber of Commerce before the end of the year. But we're not married to a timeline because we want to make sure the process is as transparent as possible and as informative as possible so that your questions and input can be addressed appropriately by your board and that many questions that you may have get answered. So with that, I'd like to open it up to any questions or input from you. Well, first, you guys will be given a summary pamphlet on your way out the door that sort of summarizes this presentation. The next level, once the board sets the election date, is that we will be more than likely hand-delivering not only ballots, but also some information, pros and cons, to each active member. And that will also obviously have the period that the election is going to be held over. Oh yeah. So for the members who couldn't attend, thank you, I appreciate that. Both this presentation today and maybe my PowerPoint will also be available on the Chamber website. And Andy will do an e-blast to the members to let them know that they can view it there. So they can thank you for that.
A couple of quick questions. One John, you mentioned that some of our members belong to multiple chambers, and now this will probably make sure that they only belong to one, if these are the four chambers that they're trying to spread their membership dues among. That will reduce our membership base potentially. Is our representation on the Greater Chamber Board dependent on the number of active members we have? It's
No.
not.
One of the things, when we took our board vote, the representatives in the chamber delivered a letter to us, and specifically in that structure was the fact that no business district is greater than the other. So they have the same level of representation in the governance of the organization, as well as each office will have, multiple staff people to spread the strengths around the entire region. So they're very being thoughtful, and that's one of the things that impressed us in the exploratory committee was the thoughtfulness to make sure those kinds of concerns were addressed, that there was no imbalances or perceived imbalances that would occur.
Okay. And the other question, how are you going to address the small business owner that comes to you and says, I have a bakery or I have some other small type of an endeavor here that won't do me any good to advertise 15, 20 miles away in East Valley? Why should I support us becoming a member of this larger chamber?
Good question, absolutely good question. Couple of responses. One is, there's still gonna be local mixers, there's still gonna be local representation. That baker though, if he has a website or a Facebook page, can get the assets and assistance from the Greater Chamber, such as having a video and have a special, getting distribution out. So if they're a baker and they have a particular specialty, and they wanna do a massive e-blast, because some people maybe on the east end of the area want to do a major event, like, oh, that bread sounds so awesome, I want that bread. They'll have access, but they will still have support focused in the local community, and that's why part of this is structured is that local board to make sure that those concerns are heard and addressed, and that those local businesses are nurtured as strongly as larger regional businesses. Does that make sense?
It does. I guess I'm thinking of some people like barber shops, things like
Sure.
this, that only market within their immediate area, and they have competition in the East Valley, and I just don't see the marriage of that little business with a greater organization.
Well, they would still have the same expense. They would still get the same support they currently have.
But they get the same marketing and that kind of thing, and
Yeah.
visibility.
Absolutely, because the same kind of, the e-blasts and specials and, the different types of local mixers, because either an individual business could have a mixer, or like we've been doing a lot this past 12 months, having, Perez Party mixers or, Mission Plaza mixers, they would all still be participatory in that, because the regional mixers don't happen every single month. And even if they did, it's still, the local office and the local board would still be able to plan local events.
You might want to mention the membership fee will be the same whether they were just joining us or joining the whole.
I thought he did, but, and your membership should roughly be the same. So that's an important thing I think most of us want to know is. Sue?
Carrie, finances. Right
Yes.
now, we pay bills from our little office there. Ashley comes in and keeps the books. Will that all be done at a central area now rather than locally?
Yes, I imagine it will, because they have a centralized administrative function. So all those
So all
bills,
this-
rent, the power, absolutely.
Everything is done from a central location.
Mhm.
What does it do to the donations that you ask at your local level for a mixer, et cetera? And they say, oh, I've already given to the greater Coachella Valley, and they'll only give one thing. What does that do to us individually when we're doing door prizes and stuff like that at our mixers?
I'm not sure if it has an impact directly, because depending on your perspective, like Roger's question earlier about, say it's like a barbershop being really dependent on your local, the barbershop may want to be very much involved in those local mixers doing prizes. I mean, people already pay their membership dues, but then they extend themselves and much appreciated when they offer raffle prizes. So I think that would essentially be unchanged.
Question and observation with that. Question is, what, roughly 200 members? Is the vote to carry this proposal a majority of the membership or a majority of the votes that vote?
That's one of the things we're looking into. We're having the bylaws and the articles of incorporation reviewed by a lawyer to give the board guidance on that, just to make sure that we are compliant with what is appropriate.
Now, an observation, and Katie or whoever, if I'm grossly wrong, please correct me, but when I went through this same proposal as a member of Wakita, they had roughly 1,000 members in the three groups combined, of which 200 were duplicates. So that was $60,000 of possible dues going away. They now have almost 1,300 members, and they started literally less than a year ago at 800 men. So one of the things that we should think about is, this really should not only help us, be part of a bigger fish within the same ocean, but also enable us to be able to raise a lot more people, more members.
That's a very good point, and that is one of the things that both the Exploratory Committee and the board was very, very concerned about is value to the members. That's the basis of our function as a chamber. So your observation is I think, perfectly astute, because right now, when we ask for someone to join the chamber, we have a limited set of offerings and support that we can provide our members. And it's good, we're small. That's the bottom line of it. And with broader based, even if they don't go to regional mixers, I remember very distinctly our own members saying, I want to know more business-specific programs. So attending those Cal CPA events, the various kinds of business-focused, how to be better your business event, again, either for free or for a minimal amount, at $5, I think that's really crucial for a small business owner, because then they have something to take away with them, even if they don't go to different regional events. There's still value coming to them for that. That is more than we can offer currently. And that's what I think is one of the greater attractions for us and our members, and that's why I support this process. Ted?
Since we would be basically the lone soldier in the West Valley, are there any other chambers that have expressed interest or are currently going through the same process on the west end as opposed to all east?
Well, I know early on, Josh Bonner and others reached out to all the chambers in the valley, and some expressed interest, some did not. I'm not sure about specifically where it stands now in the west.
I would not be a good partner if I disclose discussions with other chambers. I can only tell you that other chambers have reached out to us, and we are talking to other
Great.
chambers. So
That is the CEO of the Greater Chamber, Josh Bonner. Katie Stice.
It's a long title. I
Title.
work at the chamber.
actually, it's a long title, but it's an important title. Katie is our Vice President of Core Services, but she's also the Regional President of Indio and La Quinta. So within this structure, even at a staff level, you have a particular executive that is assigned to oversee your city.
Thank you.
Carrie, can I make a point?
Yes.
One of the things
Please.
that's nice about the fact that we are the first one on the West Valley, you know what, we join is in a position of strength. You know what, we're the first ones. And you know what, it's nice to have something in the West Valley. And you know what, and so we're doing this not because we have to. We looked at this as a committee and said, oh my gosh, the benefits far outweigh the negatives. And the reality is, it's nice being in the front of the line. It's nice being, you know what, instead of going, oh crap, this is what we've got to do. And we've heard from, you know what, we are dependent on, it's wonderful. As, I'm a small business, I'm a small business owner. So I work for a large company, but I'm a realtor, so it's mine. You know what, I like the fact that, and we pay our dues every year, we do all that. But you know what, we're also hearing from the large companies, Forest Lawn, Jessup, Agua Caliente, that they can't join 9 chambers. And so the reality is, those budgets are going to start to be cut, and the fact that we're ahead of this, that we're, driving this train instead of being at the back of the train. So that was one of the big things that we were seeing as a huge benefit, that, you know what, we're attacking our own destiny instead of sort of being the destiny attacking us. So, just a point.
That's a really good point. Of course. If we could say.
So, hi all, I'm Tony Merrihew, and this was last minute today, so I didn't know I was going to be coming, but I I am currently on the board for the Greater Coachella Valley Chamber of Commerce, but I'm also a Cathedral City resident, so this is my city. My husband has a history, some of you know him, he served on the Cathedral City Chamber Board for many years. So I know from within that the chamber has struggled with membership and events, and the city has lost a lot of businesses, and you know, the ones that are here just keep chugging away, and like the Boys and Girls Club, it's one of the train that keeps going. The Cathedral City Chamber has been that as well, and it's kept going by the heart of the members. I had the privilege of being on the Indio Chamber of Commerce board before the merge took place, so I had a little snapshot into that, and I was immediately impressed when I was on that chamber with the caliber of events that they put together, the staff support, which is phenomenal. It's really nice. Those of you that are on the board for Cathedral City know how hard you work. I know how hard my husband worked to put on events. When you have a staff that actually carries that shoulder burden, and then you're there to just lift them up and help and be at the events, it's phenomenal. A couple of other things that I think are important is that with opening up the scope to the greater valley, even if you're just that barbershop that's here or the bakery that's here in the city, your events and mixers will be attended by people that are across the valley, and they're going to get exposure to your businesses that they might not have had before. They might not have, you know, been as interested to drive across the valley to go to a mixer, but when they're the greater Coachella Valley ones, they're just, it's been really great for us. More importantly, the local business districts really play a key part, and we've had several meetings already where those reps from the local business districts for Coachella, La Quinta, and Indio are present at our board meetings to have that voice and put forth what's important for their city right now. By the way, don't forget we have this event, we need you to get behind it, Chamber. Don't forget this business is coming in, we need you to get behind it. So it's really been a positive experience, and I know it's kind of that unknown, what's in it for me thing, but it's really just been positive across the board. It also has a great play. Some of the businesses, as you know, Cathedral City has relied very, very heavily for years on key sponsors. I don't know if they're here, but Jessup has and Jessup and Forest Lawn, and amongst a few others, the theater, have just been the ones that have stepped up. I mean, there's other businesses, I don't mean to leave anybody out, but what happens is that you can, you know, those same businesses are getting hit by other cities and have opportunities. Companies like the one that I work for, all of a sudden you have your dollars, you say, I might have been sponsoring at X amount of dollars, but now my membership is across 3 chambers, I can stretch that a little higher, I can do a little bit more. And I think that you'll see that with the Forest Lawns and, you know, the Jessups and those, that they'll be able to do that. So again, I didn't know I was gonna talk, I hadn't planned on it, but I just want you guys to know, I've been on both sides. This is my city, I love this city, I love it, you know, everything about it, and I just hope that the vote goes that way, because it's cool for me to vote.
Thank you.
That's it.
And thank you, Johnny. Speaking of that, as you know, our contract with the city has us involved both as a visitor center and also helping with city-sponsored events. This actually can enhance our ability to help the city of Cathedral City's events. So whether it's the Taste of Jalisco or the LGBT Days or the Balloon Fest, there's going to be more assets available to help support those events, which are both enjoyed by the valley widely, but particularly by our community. And I think those are crucial to our city culture, and we can, as a chamber, be even stronger in helping them and the city support those and sponsor those and get the word out on those events. Any other questions or thoughts? Larry Davis.
Well, I work with Carrie at Forest Lawn, as most of you know.
Past President Emeritus.
I'm past chairman for 2 terms and been on the board for 6 or 8 years, plus the chairman. And I came on, Roger was on, and a lot of us that are now old. I do have my pre-need at Forest Lawn, by the way. I would just say to you that I think the focus that this is going is good. Because while we do write checks, and we seem to write a lot of them at times, we're very dedicated to the community, and we are I think, very good community partners. But when I look at when I do my budget, which we just finished for 2017, and I look at chairman memberships that run from $4,000 to $8,000, and you times that by 9, you pretty quickly see how much money that is. When I look at the events that the Greater Coachella Valley Chamber can offer, if we join with 4 chambers, that economically speaks well for us. But beyond all of that, I live in Cathedral City. When we came to Cathedral City, Forest Lawn, many people thought we would do it. It used to be done in Cathedral City, call it Palm Springs Mortuary. And the city fathers and mothers at the time, when we sat in Glendale, and I said, we will do what we do in all of our other parks. We will name it after the city we're in. It will be Forest Lawn Cathedral City. And I remember the city council, mayor, chamber people saying, "Oh my God, you're going to actually call it Cathedral City?" Yeah, we are. We're very proud of the city we're in, and I think we've been very good community sponsors. And we'll move forward with the chamber, whatever. But I didn't put Kerry up to this. He's on his own on doing this, did a good job. But from our heart, from living here in the city and being a business member in the city that serves the entire valley, we think this is a good move. And I think it focuses resources. I've been very impressed with the organization, how it's been put together. And I'm one of the guys that want to hang on to old tradition, believe me. That's what kind of we're all about in remembering things in funerals. But I'm also a guy that you have to look ahead and say, where are things going? And I see this as a valley. I know a lot of people, when I'm traveling and they say, "Where do you live?" I always try to say Cathedral City, and they go, "Well, where is that?" And I spent 12 years on staff at the Crystal Cathedral in Garden Grove, and people get that really confused when I see Crystal Chrysler in Cathedral City. I'm going, what's that about? But anyway, the point is that I'm very proud of Cathedral City, but I'm proud of the valley too, and I think it's becoming a regional destination with all the events, and we see it as that at Forest Lawn. We were part of the Economic Summit the other day. We're 112 years in business in Glendale. We've just finished 12 years here at Cathedral City. Another 100 years before I can retire. But we're here for the long haul, and we see great potential in the East Valley and in where we are. So I would support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for today? If you don't, and something comes up later, you get a brainstorm, and please pop us an email, and one of us in the board will get back to you. And you certainly will receive an email blast about the election parameters coming up, and hopefully you will all receive a handle of the ballot and a hearty handshake hello.